Here's the best PvP perks for light, medium and heavy. Starting off with light, the first best in slot perk for light is going to be health. Actually, health is the best in slot perks for all builds. PvE, PvP, medium, light, doesn't matter. Health is always going to be your top perk because it's constant. The next best in slot perk for light is going to be Shaking Heals, but there's an exception. If you have a healer in your group, then you do not have to use Shaking Heals, since you will always be full health. But if you're somebody that runs in the open world and you're solo and you do not have a healer with you, then Shaking Heals will be your most effective perk. And as I said before, if you have a dedicated healer, then Shaking Heals will not have any value. So this perk is good for OPRs, arenas, and everything that you do solo. In wars, this perk will not be as good. Now that you know when to use Shaking Heals, the next best perk is going to be Enchanted Ward. Why Enchanted Ward? Well, it's basically constant. And of course, you can't utilize Shaking Fortification because you do not have a lot of armor on your build, even with the Featherweight artifact. So Enchanted Ward is your best in slot perk if you're a light player. But as you will see later, this is not the case for medium and heavy. And of course the last perk is up to you. If you're not going to go Shaking Heals, then you can go something like Fire Harnessing, just a damage increase perk overall. Or you can even run Invigorated in one of those perks. But I would say it's safe to say most damage dealers would want something like this. If I had to rank these perks, the two must-have perks is Health and Shaking Heals. If you're somebody that's going to go Shaking Heals, if you have to give up a perk, give up Enchanted, since health is really important in this patch. But if I was to craft the best in slot armor piece, I would go Health, Shaking Heals, Enchanted, if I was an arena enjoyer or OPR enjoyer. For the medium and the heavy build is more or less the same, so you will also require health. As you can see here, health is really important still. Health will always be important. And the next best in slot perk for medium and heavy is obviously going to be Shaking Heals again, since health is really important. And then the same goes for Shaking Fortification. Shaking Fortification is really good since it scales from your armor. So if you have a lot of armor with heavy or medium, Shaking Fort will become more effective. This is why we run Shaking Fort and not Enchanted Ward, because Shaking Fort is much better than Enchanted Ward if you have a lot of armor. Now you might also know about Grid Ward. Grid Ward is also a good perk, but I would say Shaking Fort is still better than Grid Ward, since Shaking Fortification will reduce much more damage than Grid Ward. But if you're a heavy, medium player that utilizes Grid, 300 con and so forth, then you might consider Grid Ward. Before we end this video, let's quickly talk about what artifacts to use for light and medium and heavy. So the armor artifacts that I would use with light is the Attunement Leather Pants and Nimble Coat. And of course, the Featherweight. So between these three, you can choose what you want to use. For medium, I would probably go with Freedom, the artifact called Freedom, Tumbler Feather Wraps, and Nimble Cloak and so forth. Those are basically the three that I would go. The artifact that I would recommend for heavy is Freedom and maybe the Djinn Head Wrap. Why the Djinn Head Wrap? Well, it's basically a medium armor piece, but the stats and the buff that it gives you might outweigh the little bit of armor you lose, since the dots and the weakens will be reduced on you, meaning that you will take less damage from bleeds, poisons, and range will expire faster on you. If you consider using the Featherweight, go and watch this video to see the most optimal loadout and equip load combos for the Featherweight armor piece.